Am I the a-hole flipping out on my fiance for canceling all the vegan food options from our wedding food menu behind my back? My fiance, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that disagreed on during the wedding planning except for food. Me and my family are vegans, and there are so many reasons why we chose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiancé and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me, obviously. However, when deciding on the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4 to 5 vegan options. My fiancé and his mom objected, saying it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because for one, it's me and my family who's paying. And 2, I want to make my guests feel welcome and not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiancé made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day, I found out that he had canceled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely and behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. He at first said it was his mom's idea, then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home, and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and input and refusing to accommodate his family. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 to 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said it was fine and they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. Am I the a-hole for putting my foot down on this? Update 1. So, his mom messaged me earlier to try to get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She spent long walls of text just to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went to explain how SH5Es noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's input and contribution to the wedding. She said that she noticed my behavior towards him and her entire family and wanted to speak up earlier, but didn't, and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issue and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean she doesn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought it was so responsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how this stuff is waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying, I paid for it, and said that technically this isn't just my money, it's mine and his because we're getting married. She suggested I wisen up and get rid of my money, I paid for it mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is making me look and said that she and her son had already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only her son is upset, but she and the family are as well after hearing about it, and suggested I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. This pissed me off beyond belief. I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing my ground on this even if I'll have to call the whole wedding off because of it, because honestly, this is just ridiculous. It is. My mom and dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently, my fiancé saw my response to her, he's with her, and is now trying to call me, but right now I'm waiting on him to get home and see if he's still insisting on the stance he took. I'll update if there's anything worth adding after we talk. Update 2. Didn't realize how long the title was LOL. So, the talk didn't go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Most of them are obese. Nothing wrong with that. They're perfectly within their right to decide how to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true, and that this was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guests might see those vegan options as offensive, also said that his family love food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch and feel that there's difference in how I treat them versus how I treat my family. He then went on to explain how it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's on the menu, and if they felt inconvenienced, so what? It's just a one-time thing. They're not gonna die if they had salad and appetizers. What he said wasn't good enough reason for me causes folks are gonna think and say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's my wedding. And to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromise on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said, it's not about the food anymore if it ever was. Like, he'd literally lose nothing if he let me have what I wanted, but apparently, he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him back the ring and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship and I didn't know what to expect, but it's safe to say that he and his mom and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on many occasions, so that's that. Last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything between for the sake of keeping him happy. Decisions have been made, and it's done. Just wanted to give an update to those who wanted it. Thank you so much for your endless stream of advice and support. Story 2. OP learns a hard lesson about herself. My best friend Sarah, 26 female, and her husband Matt, 28 male, have put me in a very difficult position with my fiance Jack, 30 male. I have known Matt since my childhood. He was my neighbor, and we were friendly. Sarah and I were roommates in college and became close friends. When I introduced Sarah and Matt, they hit it off and started dating each other. I was happy to see two of my friends get together, but also annoyed that I became the third wheel and was often ignored or set aside because they were so into each other. By the time I graduated, Matt had completely dropped me as a friend. That saddened me, but I was still good friends with Sarah, so it was what it was. Sarah and I would frequently hang out, but I never talked with Matt other than the occasional polite hellos. Sarah would sometimes try to do couples dates with her and Matt and me and my dates. I found that Matt had developed an unpleasant personality and would frequently be rude and condescending towards me. However, he's a very devoted and loving husband to Sarah, so for her sake I ignored him. When my fiancé and I got engaged, we had no plans to do a party. Sarah was disappointed that we didn't throw an engagement party, so she organized a small get-together at her home to celebrate us. The party was nice, and as things were winding down, my fiancé and I went to thank Sarah and Matt for their sweet gesture before we took our leave. Matt was pretty tipsy by then, and out of nowhere he suddenly hugged me, and in front of my fiancé said that he was so glad that I was finally settling down, and he is relieved that now I'll be over the crush I had on him. I was shocked and told him that wasn't true. He just laughed and told Jack that I was always chasing him, and he had to work hard to keep me away. I dragged Sarah in and asked her to please fix this mess, and she was all like, "Oh, he's drunk, ignore him," and say, "You know I always trust you. I know you wouldn't act on your crush." Jack was pretty pissed by this point and he walked out. I ran after him and tried explaining that this isn't true, but he told me he doesn't want to be anyone's second choice or their backup plan. Since that night, he isn't talking to me or returning my calls. I've talked to Sarah multiple times to clear things with Jack, but she's brushing me off. I don't understand why they believe this or why she'd stay friends with me if she thought I was with her husband. I was at her wedding party and did all the work because her sister, who was the MOH, was too busy. I have helped her through her pregnancy and have babysat her kids so many times. She never gave me any indication she thought this, and why would she want me close to her family if she believed this? I feel humiliated that these people think I was pining away for a jerk like Matt. I need help in convincing Jack this isn't true. I am also mad at him for throwing away our relationship over what some drunken idiot said. I don't know what I am going to do about my friendship with Sarah. Update 1. I talked to Sarah again and asked her first of all why she'd think I had a crush on Matt. She said that when I first introduced them, I had talked up Matt and gushed about him, and she took that as me being into him. I said I was fond of him, since I've known him for a long time, but that doesn't mean I want to be with him. She said when they started dating, I was often upset about it. I said I wasn't upset about their dating. I was upset that she'd make plans with me and then leave me to be with him, and when we were all together, I didn't enjoy being the third wheel while they ignored me. That had nothing to do with wanting him and more to not liking being left out by my best friend. I asked her why she hadn't said anything before, and she explained that she could manage the situation. She had asked Matt to stop talking to me completely, and she engineered situations, so there was little chance of us socializing with each other. I asked her, now that I have explained that I never had a crush on Matt, can you please talk to Jack and tell him? She said she didn't want to lie. This frustrated me immensely. She could ignore this imaginary crush for years and manipulate me, but won't talk to my fiancé to help my relationship. I told her I was done being her friend. Thinking back, I was always doing stuff for her, and she used me but did little for me. Update 2. I wrote a long letter to Jack explaining the entire history of my relationship with Sarah and Matt with the recent screen caps. I asserted as best as I could that I had never pined after any guy and I loved him, and he was my only choice. After days of silence, Jack agreed to talk to me. We met, and he said that he sees two ways of interpreting the situation. 1. Matt and Sarah are right, and he doesn't want to be my second choice. 2. They are malicious people who are messing with me, and that shows very poor judgment on my part that I'd have a best friend like this, and he doesn't want that quality in a life partner. Either possibility leads to the same conclusion that he wants to call off the engagement. He reminded me that I had represented Sarah as one of the most important people in my life. I'd jump up and help her all the time. I had once canceled plans with him to take care of her kid when the baby was sick. It had irked him, but he had seen it as me being caring and nice, but now he's seeing all that in a different light. I cried and begged him not to end our engagement, but he wanted a break for a while. I thought over what he said for a few days and came to realize that he was right. I was a clingy friend and a doormat. I never even saw how much one-sided my friendship with Sarah was. I was a doormat with Jack too. I didn't want to get married or have kids this early, but agreed to his timelines. I gave up an exciting job opportunity with more money because he didn't want me traveling for work. I love him, but I need to fix myself and be stronger. I gave back his ring and ended things. I returned all the gifts he gave too. He was offended by that, but I didn't feel good about keeping the very expensive things he had given me. He makes a lot more than me and was very generous with what he gave me, but I can't keep that now. Sarah was quiet for a while but then started calling me. I ignored a lot of her calls, but this morning I answered her call and told her about the breakup. I was looking for sympathy from my old friend. She was more interested in knowing if I was still going to watch her kid while she and Matt went on an overnight trip. She got pretty angry when I said no. I have blocked her now. I have lost my fiancé, my best friend, and my relationship with my nephew, whom I adored, all in one go. But still, I am thankful for the comments that showed this wasn't something I could fix and helped me rip off the Band-Aid and walk away from this mess. Story 3. My best guy friend just told me he's in love with me, 2 days before my Wedding Plus update. I've been with my fiancé for 3 years, engaged for a little over a year. My best friend and I have known each other since freshman year of college. We are all in our early 30s. This morning, I woke up to a long-ass text from my guy's best friend that he had sent around 6 a.m. Basically, it was him pouring his heart out. He said he's been in love with me for years, but always hoped I'd end up breaking up with my fiancé and finally noticing him. He asked me to call off the wedding and run away with him. It said, I needed to tell you before it was too late. I just feel gross and sad. I have no feelings for him beyond platonic love. I've drafted a response and deleted it over and over. I haven't even told my fiancé. I don't want him to have to worry about me so soon at our wedding. I know I need to, but I don't know what to do or how to phrase it. What's worse is that he's become my fiancé's friend, too. I'm also pretty pissed that my friend chose such an unfortunate time to cause me such distress. There were so many times over the years he could have just bucked up and told me how he felt. But waiting until right before I'm married? Like I would just cancel my wedding and leave my fiancé because of a goddamn text? I want to tell him to not come to the wedding. I can't trust that he wouldn't try to pull something. I don't even know if I want to talk to him again, but the thought of losing my best friend is heartbreaking. Hell, the thought of not having him at my wedding is really painful. He's put me in an uncomfortable, impossible situation. I wish it wasn't on me to deal with his feelings for him. I wish he had either stopped being friends with me when he realized us ending up together would never happen, or had told me a while ago. I don't want to kick him while he's down, but I need to make it clear that I have no feelings. The wedding is still on, and I don't want him to attend. We have been friends for over a decade. I've been crying over this all day. I feel almost disgusted, knowing that this whole time he had ulterior motives. How do I even go about dealing with this? I'm supposed to get married in under 48 hours. Edit. I'll be showing the text to my fiance after he gets home from his brother's. I won't send anything until he's here with me. Update, my husband, I love being able to say that now, and I got back from our honeymoon yesterday. I turned on my phone and opened the Reddit app, and it was still signed into this account, so I had an oh yeah moment and figured I'd post an update. So, a lot of people here really helped validate the icky mess of feelings I was having. Thank you for that. Posting here really helped put my thoughts into words. So that night my fiancé got home from his brother's. I let him sit down, and then I showed him the text. He read it, and I watched his eyes get bigger and expression angrier. Of course, I started apologizing like an idiot, and he told me I didn't owe him an apology for anything. We talked, and he told me he figured the guy had a crush, but kept it respectful. And really he had. We were close, but beyond a side hug during greetings and goodbyes, there was no physicality. I even let him read out past messages just to see that there was no emotional affair or me leading him on. I never even vented about my fiancé when we would have arguments, because I knew better than to do that. I talked to my mom, lol. So my fiancé asked me what I wanted to do. And I said that while it did sadden me, I didn't want him at our wedding. I was afraid that he would try some nonsense. We typed up a very brief message. It said, "Friend, I'm sorry that you mistook my friendship for something more. The wedding is going to happen, and it'd be best if you didn't attend." To be clear, I let fiancé read this message, and he stands by my decision to uninvite you. We wanted to make it clear that it was me who wanted him to not come, not just my fiancé. Knowing him, he'd probably claim that fiancé forced me to uninvite him. He read the message and left it on read for a while. I honestly started getting pretty anxious over it, and my fiancé asked if I wanted to block him. Part of me wanted to, and part of me wanted to hear him out. And when he finally responded, the text was so long that I had to click on it to read it. It was horrible. He called me a liar for leading him on for over a decade, that he hoped my fiancé left me, and that we were infertile. It was just a horrible thing after the horrible thing, and I started crying. Fiancé took my phone into the other room while I sobbed. I think he called him, but I'm not sure. What I do know is after about an hour he came back in, handed me my phone back, and told me that a friend was now blocked on everything, would not be attending, and the best man and my maid of honor knew of the situation and would handle it for me. It was like a weight lifted off of my shoulders, honestly. After reading that message, I really wasn't so sad that friend wouldn't be attending anymore. And our wedding fucking rocked. We had the time of our lives, surrounded by people who loved us, and we loved them. It still feels like a dream, to be honest. And if friend tried to show up, I never heard anything of it. I guess that's the update. It's not nearly as dramatic and crazy as what people hope for, I feel like, but I'm happy.